when it comes to solidifying these connections that you're making, so everybody's out there. If you're an entrepreneur and you're building your business and you're not just working for the man, right? And this is a big thing now. Everybody's starting to work for themselves. So if, when it comes to building connections and relationships, that's huge. So when it comes to solidifying those connections, how do you follow up and how do you follow through? Because following up has a lot to do with that. So let's first understand the inherent differences between the two, following up and follow through. Why do we want to understand them? Because we want to become conscious of the difference so that you don't think that you're doing one when you're doing the other, or you don't think you're doing one when you're not doing anything at all. So let's bring that to the surface right now. So follow up is a communication-based way of building trust with the people that you are speaking to, that you're networking with, while following through is an action-based method of building trust. So think about that for a second. Following up is a communication-based activity, right? And it's about building trust and things like that. But then we say following through, both under your control. One takes a little bit more time than the other, maybe, who knows? But following through is an action-oriented thing. So here we are, we know that action creates results, right? But they work together. So follow through continues until the action or task is complete. So let's look at your business right now. Let's focus on you right now. Let's look at your business acumen and practices. If you've made that quality decision, and remember what a quality decision means, is that you've looked at something and said, I'm making a decision to go after this long term, and you've also identified the work that's involved and the risk and the sacrifice, and you've said, I'm doing it anyway, and I'm committed to the long term. Remember, when I made my decision to create what I now have that is manifested as this thing called the dragon, I said I'm going to do it long term. And as a matter of fact, I didn't even acknowledge the results that I was getting, the outcome that's out of my control, for 2 to 5 years, right? So if you've made that quality decision to contend for your dreams and chose the structure, right? We got to have structure, we got to have strategy, we have to have mentorship and guidance, all things that I teach how to build into your schedule in the 15 days of discipline. So if you have all those things and a support team to get you there, then let's look at your daily activities. Let's uncover your daily activities. Are you building a list of contacts and starting conversations, right? You can't have conversations unless you're building a list and identifying people. So this means not just friend requesting people, right? So let's go into the business acumen. It doesn't mean friend requesting people. It's not just a hello, right? But a curious and compassionate question that is about them, followed up by listening and seeking to understand them more than being understood. So let's stop there for 1 second. When you're connecting with people to build this list of things, right? Are you just connecting with people to acquire a number of connections? Or are you connecting with people and being curious and compassionate to find out about them? And I have this lesson that I teach called find out what their thing is, right? I always say, what's your thing, right? You know, everybody wants to be happier, healthier, and wealthier, but what's your thing? Well, then you're off to a good start if you're doing that. If you're creating a list of contacts, but then authentically finding out about them and asking questions, then you're off to the races. Because remember something, a conversation doesn't start until you say hi and ask a question, right? So you're off to a good start as those conversations and listening skills are forging the basics of relationship building and trust, which comes from genuinely being interested. Genuinely. Here's a mistake that a lot of people make when they're building conversations and relationships. They just are looking for bodies. And this is one of the things that I didn't like about like large scale multi-level marketing and network marketing. You know, I've learned a lot of different things since, but the whole numbers game, right? You know, it doesn't say that you're actually interested in them. You're interested in what they can do for you when you're playing the numbers game. So I don't like to look at it that way. Remember, the first words out of my mouth every morning are, how can I help? So when I have conversations that are curious and compassionate, I'm asking questions about how I can help them, which requires me to learn about them. Because when I ask that question, how can I help? I don't know. So I become curious and compassionate when I meet people to find out, how can I help? Can I help, right? Sometimes not helping is a way of helping people. Get the hell out of their face sometimes, right? So eventually, in the first 1 to 8 touches, and this is just a statistic that I've observed, once you start relationships, in the first 1 to 8 touches of your conversation and relational development, they're going to find out what it is that you do. They're going to find out your story and connect how you may be of service to their needs. But it's going to happen organically because you're building an authentic relationship based on this stuff, right? So I'm setting you up for why follow-up is important. So directly or indirectly, you're going to build an organic relationship. You're going to show them yours. They're going to show you theirs, right? It's called the law of reciprocity, right? If you authentically are interested and curious about others, they will bounce the ball back to you. Now, if you take interest in someone and claim that you desire to learn more about them, or provide them with something and you don't follow up, let's think about what happened there, right? If I meet you and I say, I want to be friends with you, I'm interested in you, I want to do business with you, and I think I can help you. And there's those statements that happen, right? And I don't follow up with them, well, you're losing their trust. That's what I said. It's a communication-based thing, follow up. You're losing their trust and unveiling that you were not, in fact, interested and just playing, as I said before, the numbers game, right? You're just saying, if I speak to enough people, I'll find someone that gives me what I want, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting. I've spoken about this fact many, many times, right? What we talk about is that human beings are value-seeking missiles. We don't think, say, or do anything that has no value. It's okay to want, but what I'm encouraging you to do is to want to understand them better, right? And if you do that, right, if that's your want, then you're going to get what you want on the other side. It happens organically, right? So you're losing their trust and unveiling that you are not, in fact, interested in just playing the numbers game, hoping to strike the gold, strike it rich on the first date. You know, one of the things and observations that I always made that I think is cool is, what's the first step before you get married to somebody, right? You have to first get engaged. And what's the step before getting engaged? You have to date and you have to court. But what happens on the first date? You have to impress upon one another. And impressing upon one another is about creating relationship, creating commonalities. And sometimes it's not a good idea to try to make out on the first date. So why would we in business do it any other way? Why in business do we go out there and try to make out on the first date? And how do you prove that that's what you were doing? Is you don't follow up with someone. So if you tell me that you're interested in me and I'm not ready to play right away, but then you don't follow up, here's what I know. You weren't interested in me. You were interested in what I could do for you. So follow up is huge. So not an effective plan if you're not following up. And it's also not a good use of time. It's actually a time sucker. It's actually a distraction away from high leverage activities. As a matter of fact, if you're playing the numbers game, it's going to take you longer to succeed, and it's going to decrease your leverage and acceleration. So that's why they say the fortune is in the follow-up. Right? So if you're somebody that's been out there contending and you have a massive list of people that said no to you, or not yet, or I don't know, or I have to check, give me some time, or thanks, but no thanks, and you have a massive list of those people and you're the kind of person that follows up with them, well, you're going to build trust and great relationships, but also you're going to be a multimillionaire if you follow up. Most people don't follow up. So all this stuff builds confidence and trust in these people. Now comes the time where we tell ourselves or tell others, tell ourselves, because we talk to ourselves all the time and we talk to ourselves in the mirror, or we tell others that we're going to do something. I have a rise up called gonna butts, right? We're always saying what we're gonna do. We tell others what we're going to do, and we tell ourselves. And as soon as we decide not to do it, we use our butt. Our butts are behind us, but we bring them up to the front of us, right? We say, I'm gonna butt, I was gonna butt, right? So when we tell ourselves or others something that we're going to do, that's going to leverage the outcome that we desire and they desire, right? This action-based thing requires an action-based follow through, right? So this action-based and this thing that we're talking about requires following through, meaning being impeccable to your word. The Four Agreements, one of the greatest books ever. I've downloaded it and on Audible, and I've gone through it many, many times. And one of the 4 agreements is to be impeccable to your word. And why is that important? Because if you're not impeccable to your word, then your word means nothing. So meaning being impeccable to your word and being able to identify with yourself in the mirror. When you talk to yourself in the mirror and you identify, are you identifying yourself as somebody that says something and does it? Right? Sometimes if we play our old story in the realm of physical, mental, and financial journey, and going after things that we desire, our old story is I start off strong and then I stop. So is that what you say to yourself in the mirror, right? Or do you look at yourself in the mirror and say, when I say something, I'm going to do it? Now, that's another reason why you want to take my 15 days of discipline, because you have to build discipline around that. You can become that person if you're not right now.